This is the track, and we are tracking one of the key areas that is critical in the economic transformation agenda, and that is agriculture. And as you know, the president in his inauguration speech and subsequent policy instruments such as the State of the Nation, the budget, and other policy formulations and policy pronouncement, he talked about the issues of reviving the agricultural sector. And agriculture has always been the backbone of Zimbabwe's economy and anchoring the various industries in Zimbabwe. And we are here at one of the key sectors or parastatals in terms of driving the agricultural revolution in Zimbabwe. That is the Agricultural and Rural Development Authority, ARDA. That is under the tutelage or the leadership of ARDA board chairman, Mr. Bezu Nyabaza, to hear his perspective, what they are doing in terms of driving the national development agenda within the 100-day cycle. Mr. Nyabaza, for years, ARDA, it has been in the doldrums, so to say.
Yes, it's fair to say that we went through a very difficult time, and it's now a time when we can showcase what we are doing. We started way back in 2008. You know, we realized that we had land, we had water, and sadly, at that moment in time, we had a very difficult political environment. Then, to compound it all, illegal sanctions were also at their peak. And we had to find a way out because food security complements national security. And we had to make sure that we must produce food in a manner which will bring the food basket status back to Zimbabwe. So it has been a marathon. Where we are today is 7-8 years of hard work, commitment, listening, cross-pollination with the various players within Zimbabwe. And I think right now, it's fair to say ARDA is out of the intensive care.
But some would say ARDA was better off maybe just before the turn of the millennium. And when the land reform came, you as the new drivers of this, you led it under the train, so to say.
Not at all. You must remember that the land reform was about plus or minus year 2000. And the pre-land reform era, yes, our agriculture was settled. But when we had challenges to do with land reform, when our government rightly said we must own the key resource land, there was difference of opinion, not just within Zimbabwe, but especially abroad. So the world left Zimbabwe. The global financing mechanism left Zimbabwe. And we had to now soldier that responsibility as a nation. In so doing, yes, we stumbled, we fell down, but one thing is clear. The former government created landlords across the nation. Zimbabwe is full of landlords who own that key resource, the land. We own it, it's ours. We are now at a stage where we are saying, yes, we own it, but how best do we use it? How best do we extract value from the land? But ownership is clear as day. We own the land. Extraction of value is where we are. So we say, the land reform was the foundation. Let's now build on what the previous government left. The new dispensation is now tasked with extraction of value from the land. All facets of agriculture, be it plantation, cereals, horticulture, livestock, wildlife, they form the full complement of agricultural activities. And let me tell you, my brother, we are a gifted nation in terms of the climate. Zimbabwe retains one of the best climates within Africa. We can grow virtually anything here. The challenge is that we are running a marathon. And when you run a marathon, some people, you can lead the first 10 kilometers. But if it's a 50 kilometer, the idea is to win. That's the formula we have deployed. Agriculture is long term. We need now to train the trainers. Our respective agricultural colleges, Chibero, Gwebu, Mlezu, Gwanda, the teachers themselves, the tutors, the professors there, we believe they are being challenged by technology now. Here we are today on this estate, a zero tillage estate. In other words, what you saw here, the crop you see here, there was no tillage here. It's a zero tillage program. There's no irrigation here because of the tillage, what it does to the texture of the soil. So our students are being taught yesterday's thinking. We are now saying technology has no boundaries. Let's embrace technology. Let's bring the best out of our land by deployment of technology.
Maybe can you just take us an overview of some of the estates that we have across the country?
Yes.
And maybe also touching on the issues of the capacity and the utilization of all these estates.
ARDA's progress is founded on one key principle, one business model, public-private partnership. By so doing, we have land, we have got water across the entire Zimbabwe in all the ecological regions. We have got plantations mostly in Manicaland. We have also a bit of cereal production. In Masvingo province, livestock, wildlife. In Matabeleland province, wildlife and cropping. Mashonaland provinces, all of them, we do mostly cereals. So across the board, ARDA retains the key segments of agriculture. Now, to deploy and get output from that, we realize that we are lacking one key issue.
But before you go there,
Yes.
How many are they?
We have got 21 estates dotted around the whole country.
With what kind of hectarage, so to say?
Hectarage, we do right now plus or minus 110,000 hectares under our immediate jurisdiction.
And what capacity are you using?
Right now, we sit on plus or minus 80% of that is it's working, it's deployed, but we can build on it. With technology, it's not so much about hectarage, it's about yield per hectare. What do you get out of that hectare? What resources do you put in and what do you get out? It's really that migration we are trying to put on board now.
But Mr. Nyabaza, the issue that always is a major drawback in terms of driving development in Zimbabwe is you people that are in key institutions of state arms such as this, you always give us these words. Some would say it's just rhetoric.
Yes.
Are you going beyond words and ensuring that there's tangible benefit for the people of Zimbabwe? Why were we suffering food insecure for years, yet you were there with all these thousands and hundreds of thousands of hectares?
Nation building is a process. Political base is in place. We went through challenges to establish and control effectively our political independence. But once you have done that, you need to build up economic independence. That's the process we are doing now. It cannot be done by legislation. It's practical deeds. Here we are in the field. This is real. We have never had a crop of 450 hectares of maize on this estate for decades. But there it is, it's a reality. We are expecting here 450 hectares, a minimum of 10 to 12 tons per hectare. We've never done that before. But with technology, with intent, clear intent to say, look, here we are. Let's deploy technology. Let's link up. The complete cycle is public-private partnership, working together for the common good of our nation to attain food security. This year we have had challenges of rainfall. But even if it didn't rain, our silos are full up. They are full up because we have found the formula as a nation. Despite impediments put on Zimbabwe, we found a formula to say, look, we will reach out for capital, global capital for that matter. You are aware that our president has been to Davos in Switzerland. You don't go to Davos. There's only one subject in Davos, global capital. Zimbabwe wants to access that capital for deployment in our nation. So this is what we are doing. We are now in a sound economic dispensation, led ably by Zimbabweans. The Command Agriculture Program was planned, executed by Zimbabweans. So the formula is here.
The Command Agriculture Program, talking about these public-private partnerships, is there any transparency? Recently you were in Parliament and they are said to have been secretive deals and you are quizzed and it's said you defied the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee.
No. You see now, this is where again we must understand each other. We have a mandate. Food security complements national security. And when you are working in an environment where governments have declared that they want to see that Zimbabwe does not access international capital. And when we do, by deploying skills, you don't go out and parade those issues in the public domain. Indeed, the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on lands, agriculture, and rural resettlement have a mandate, an oversight mandate, but let it be done in a responsible manner. When we go into those chambers and we debate, give the other party a chance to speak, to explain.
But isn't it in the national interest for you to divulge such kind of information?
Of course. My dear chap, we don't just pitch up and invite an investor and comes here. We have a full ministry who is responsible for us. We are answerable to a full ministry. That ministry sits at the highest organ in cabinet. So whatever we do is a qualified position. We don't just wake up and do things without the framework of the law. We comply with the law. That's what we do. But sometimes we don't understand each other. When we faced each other in parliament, they did not understand where we are coming from. We can't say A, B, C, D. Look at the security of the state. They don't tell us everything they do, but it's done in our interest. Where are we today? Our silos are full up of grain. That is a statement. Do we have to say the formulas how we are doing it? I don't think necessarily. We are competing with other nations. Zimbabwe is taking a position. We want to play catch up. So we are saying, yes, responsible information will be made available to the authorities, but in a responsible manner, not in a parade of everyone sitting there. 7 out of 10 Zimbabweans mean well. 1 or 2 are not sure, but there's a 1% element which clearly does not always mean well for the nation rebuilding.
And when we talk about this, it then comes to issues of corporate governance principles.
Yes.
With some even accusing you of usurping the powers of the management of ARDA. What do you have to say to that?
No, look. When you are a chairman, you lead. And when you lead, indeed, others might interpret that leadership. It can be strong leadership, it can be weak leadership. Certainly, I won't be found on the weak leadership. I express myself. I'm fortunate to lead ARDA at this hour. You get appointed by the executive. And during that hour, when I'm in charge with my team, be rest assured, we'll do it the way we believe is the best. And indeed, the principals will say, hang on here, don't overstep here, don't do this. But we do it in the framework of the law, of the mandate we have. But when we bring passion, enthusiasm to the exercise, that's our being. That cannot be taken away.
This is the second segment of your program, The Tracker, and we still have in our discussion Mr. Nyabadza discussing the role of ARDA in the economic recovery efforts in Zimbabwe under the new dispensation being led by President Emmerson Mnangagwa, who is very passionate about issues of agriculture and prioritizing the revival of the agricultural sector, especially this parastatal, which is key in terms of ensuring that there is food self-sufficiency in Zimbabwe. Mr. Nyabadza, talking about the command agriculture, how have you embraced the command agriculture program across all the other estates?
Yes. First and foremost, we must give credit to His Excellency, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, for leading ably the command agriculture last year. We went around the country. He interacted with many farmers, A1, A2, bigger estates. The same clear message that we Zimbabweans can do it. Let's embrace the skills, the resources we have for a common cause. And also, we had a key segment of state, the military. They were very involved to ensure that discipline, those who accessed inputs, must be accountable. So that element of discipline was critical in attaining our goal. By going around the country, you are showcasing that we are taking responsibility as a government. And really, I think the results are now clear to all Zimbabweans. Our silos are full. Command agriculture is a reality. It's a success story, and we must now build on it. So clearly, command agriculture brought a new dimension to agriculture being applied and being visible to all players within the agricultural sector. Recently, the Honorable Vice President, Comrade Chiwenga, was in Matabeleland South, launching the livestock and fisheries and wildlife program. So it's real. Very shortly, my minister is planning to go and complement what we say to our people, to say that it's a reality. We extend livestock to people, and then people must now, because some of our regions, especially regions 3, 4, and 5, have got a strong bias towards livestock. So we want to see that program really being implemented so that people believe see it, and then once it takes off, that's the best way to distribute wealth among our people.
Maybe for interest sake, someone want to ask, how many hectares do we have under the command agriculture across all the country, and what volumes are you expecting in terms of the harvest?
Well, this year I will not be the right authority to ask about
under the other estates. Under
other estates, we are expecting this year to deliver a minimum position of 70,000 tons of produce of maize. As soon as we harvest our maize, we put wheat or winter crop. Last year we delivered a minimum of 42,000 metric tons. So clearly you can see almost 100% improvement this year. And to do that is because there's a settled environment in agriculture. We've got a new minister who is leading from the front, who himself was an architect, a key player within command agriculture. So that technology, that experience is now bearing fruit.
And how have you taken the Zimbabwe for open business narrative? How have you embraced it in terms of your operations?
We are very pleased that His Excellency was invited to the Davos World Economic Forum. That forum is the forum of global players, global capital. For Zimbabwe to access that competitive rates of money to flow into our country, foreign direct investment, that's a plus. And in agriculture, we only need 2-3 years really to make an impact, not just in Zimbabwe, but within SADC and Africa. Remember, the climate change is a real issue. We must adjust. Deployment of technology is a must. Technology has no boundaries. We must embrace it. And in Zimbabwe, we are undertaking that. If you see this crop under a zero tillage, without irrigation, that's because of technology inflow. Now, if we maintain that status of applying technology, inviting capital, and a variety of crops which are grown successfully within Zimbabwe because of our climate, that's a winning formula.
And there are also obviously investors that are making inquiries within the agricultural sector.
Oh yes, we have got, right now, we didn't have a total complement under our plantations because of the long-term nature. I'm talking here about tea, coffee, macadamia nuts, pecan nuts, and sugarcane. As I speak to you now, we have signed off 2 investors who have come in to revamp our tea, our coffee, our plantations, so that Zimbabwe, we are now also graduating to a export-led production. In other words, we are saying export crops must form the basis for our agriculture as we drive and inject more resources, because we need to earn foreign currency, and agriculture is clearly there to complement our mining efforts.
But some would want to say and mock some of these efforts and saying, let
me say something, my brother, and I want to give you a live example. Skills have no boundary. If you have a white professor teaching you, you're not going to rebel and say, look, he's white. No. Zimbabwe is a rainbow nation. Our constitution stipulates that Zimbabwean skills, they are better deployed in Zimbabwe. A few years ago, we were crossing the bridge, going to Zambia to buy maize. No. We are Zimbabweans. We retain respective skills. Let's deploy skills which are Zimbabwean for the improvement of our nation in all sectors. So agriculture, if someone is knowledgeable, it's best that I learn from him. I've cited that Chibero is a college training the agricultural minds of tomorrow. If they accept that they come here for attachment, they are displayed and exposed to new technology, that's a plus. That's a winning formula.
And the president has been saying rebuilding Zimbabwe knows no color or creed.
Absolutely.
Or race.
Davos is not in Africa. Davos is in Switzerland. He was a guest and he rejuvenated Zimbabwe. The level of inquiries post Davos is incredible. And we are putting it into being. You will see a rollout program in the next few weeks. Post issues coming out of Davos. He impressed many investors. And when you go to Davos, you are going for global capital. It's not a political field. It's really business. And the Zimbabwe needs that access to traditional sources of finance, long-term, competitive interest rates. We want to produce crops for the world. We have got a fine climate, let's deploy it. By so doing, not only Zimbabwean skills, we will deploy. If skills, for example, Israel is a leader in water management, we want skills from that part of the world to come here and play a significant role, because droughts threaten food security, which undermines national security.
On that note, we'll take a short break. This is the track we still have in our discussion, Mr. Nyambaza, dissecting this issue of food security in Zimbabwe and the role of ARDA in this national development discourse. This is the final segment of your program, The Tracker, tracking the agricultural sector, and the stopover here is ARDA, and we still have in our discussion Mr. Bezo Nyabaza to discuss further on their role and what they are doing to drive development in Zimbabwe. Obviously, one issue that is always on people's lips in terms of the agri sector is the Zimbabwe ethanol project, which ARDA has also partnered with investors. But some people have been saying this project has not really become to fruition in terms of ensuring that there is tangible benefit for the people of Zimbabwe and also to drive the energy sector in Zimbabwe. Mr. Nyabaza, let's go to the Zimbabwe ethanol project.
Yes.
What has become of that project? Is it a white elephant?
Certainly not. Zimbabwe, for 7 months of the year, provides 20% of our petrol requirements as a nation, plus a good 14 megawatts for electricity. It's not just fuel, it's electricity. So we must remember that. There's a permanent offtake on a daily basis from Zimbabwe into the national grid. There's employment of no less than 4,000 Zimbabweans in a district, Chipinge district. Those are tangible deliveries. But more importantly, when you deploy technology, there's always going to be an initial period which you must accept that is taken on. There are going to be areas of concern. And sadly, Zimbabwe, when it came to being, our politics was heavily divided between 2008 and 2011. We had a political leadership which really was fighting for political supremacy, and the project suffered. In fact, don't forget, Zimbabwe was born during the Zimbabwe dollar era. But when we then converted into the US dollar era, the policies we had brought Zimbabwe to being were then revised in light of what the national government dictated to. And we had to, but in a very difficult political environment. No capital will come in an unsettled environment. So really, those were some of the attributes which undermined the acceleration and coming to being of Zimbabwe ethanol project.
So would you say it's now taking off in this new era?
Last year, in December, the full board, we started our board meeting in the field at Zimbabwe to assess, to review, to listen to management, to see what is happening on the ground. Now, we have got a very clear mandate of where we are going. The first thing is that we have deployed technology. It's now a totally 100% mechanized outfit. We have deployed the latest technology. The second issue is that the water management usage today is far better. We are using far less water. We've also realized that we must cross-pollinate with management within the region. The general manager there is from Swaziland. A Swazi national is leading that because Swaziland has been a leader in sugarcane products for a long time. We are now fusing and a strong training of Zimbabweans. Now, 98% of management are Zimbabweans. That's progress for us. We had initially technicians from Brazil, where the technology came from. As I speak to you now, 98% of all facets of management at Zimbabwe is Zimbabwean. To us, those are now Zimbabweans returning from abroad to take up positions. They are well trained, well versed with technology in the sugarcane industry, and we believe that that is a plus. However, there's now new technology to do diesel. So we are now looking at to do diesel in Zimbabwe, not just for domestic consumption here, but for export. We now have a settled political position. They understand Zimbabwe, its energy requirements, its importance, its contributions to the nation. With that clear understanding and link, we always say His Excellency is an advocate for agriculture. He led the command. He understands the various facets of agriculture. And he assembles a team which can deliver than simply pub talk.
But Mr. Nyabaza, maybe I will just take you a bit back in terms of the role of the politicians and also vis-a-vis the land reform in Zimbabwe and also other estates.
Okay.
How do you coexist?
I would say 70% of our politicians, they mean well for the country. They are there because they believe they can make a sound contribution. But there's always an element within politics which is also abused by third parties outside our borders. That's possible, and that's real. And when people come on board, some come because others are protesting. And politics is dynamic. And we don't have the best brains in politics or in non-politics. So it's a mixture. It's a given time element. But the idea is to manage. Those who believe in a journey must undertake and say, look, who is my partner on the political side? Who is my partner on the economic side? How do we maneuver and carry on a democratic path which embraces people's needs, which changes people's lives? And I believe at this hour, we retain a sound political machine to drive industry, to drive agriculture, mining for the betterment of Zimbabweans.
What does the future behold for Zimbabwe in terms of the role of ARDA and Agric in Zimbabwe's economic trajectory, so to say?
There's no doubt we are charting our way, founded on a strong leadership displayed by the former president. He articulated the land reform. He articulated and deposited education in all of us. The current leadership is to build. So Zimbabwe's future is founded on true, solid positions. You will not encounter a better skilled manpower base, human capital, than this country. If we come together, if we bring global capital under terms and conditions understood and respected by various players outside our borders, we are only playing to win. There's no other result which will come our way.
That is your program, The Track. We have come to the end of this edition. We are discussing the role of ARDA, and we are hosting the chairman of ARDA board, Mr. Bezo Nyabadza, and he was giving us his perspective on what needs to be done to ensure that Zimbabwe arrives at a stage where there is sustainable social and economic transformation, and the role of ARDA. And we have heard him speaking passionately about issues of agriculture and command agriculture and the programs that they are doing to resuscitate this key parastatal for Zimbabwe. Until next time, goodbye.